What's up, guys? Welcome back to Tractor City. I'm Ashton Pierce. Today we're going to talk about maintenance for the MT1 series. And I'm just talking about your 8-hour, your 10-hour maintenance, or your daily maintenance stuff. When you go out to use the tractor or at the end of the day of your work, the things you want to check and do before you do your next job, right? So just a real quick guide through this. Starting out, we're going to check our fluids. We want to check our hydraulic fluid or our powertrain fluid, and then also our oil. We want to check our axle for the gear oil in there as well. And then we also want to check our fluid in our radiator, make sure it's not low, because we're going to overheat if we are. And we're going to check the grease points on this. We're going to check the air filters on this to make sure the airflow is good. And also we're going to check the battery, because we need to make sure we have good connection for our electronics. So starting out the hydraulics, you need to come to the back of the tractor for this one, and it's got an orange cap on it. This is going to be your fill point for the hydraulic or the powertrain fluid. Also, it's going to be your gauge. So you'll pop this guy right out, and it's got a little gauge on there for you. You want it above that line or below that line. It's going to be perfect mark, okay? So once again, fill point or check, right, for your hydraulics. Do note though, and we'll go back up to the front of the tractor for this, you notice how I have the loader on the ground? If you have your loader up in the sky or up in the air, right, what's going to happen is these rams are going to be full of powertrain fluid, and now your readings are going to be off in the back. So make sure your loaders are on the ground, okay? A quick note for you there. So we got the powertrain fluid or the hydraulic fluid. Next, we're going to check our oil, and we don't even need to open the hood for this one. It's going to be right down here on the MT1 series. The yellow knob right here, you'll pull this guy out, and it also has a gauge on it as well. And if you ever did your car or truck, you know it pretty much looks the same idea. It wants you inside this area to be good, okay? And the only difference here is you need the fill point, and the fill point for this oil is actually underneath the hood. And that's going to be the orange cap right there, and they got a white painted on top. They usually try to mark all the caps with white to show you your check points or your fill points. Okay, and then since we're underneath the hood, we got the radiator right here as well, and this is the cap for fill point to check it and make sure everything's good. If I look over here is my overflow tank, and on the inside of this there's a high mark and a low mark. It's hard to see on the camera, but with your own eye you'll be able to see it. And just make sure, same deal, it's not over the high mark or below the low mark. Okay, so those are going to be the fluids. Last fluid is going to be on the axle, and it's going to be on the same side actually, right here by this left hand tire. Same deal, they got it painted white on top of it for you, but it's the orange cap, and it's also got a gauge on it as well. Kind of common sense, but you know, if you're not thinking about it, you never done it, you might not realize. You need to make sure, same deal, there's the marks that you wanted in, right? Same deal, your tractor needs to be level, right? You can't be on a hill doing this stuff, because obviously it's going to show it different. So we did the hydraulic fluid, we did the oil, we did the axle, which this is going to be gear oil. We found all the fill points, we checked the radiator. Next thing I'm going to jump to is going to be the fuel filter. And the only real deal we can do here to check it is going to be just looking at it. And here's the bulb here. You want to make sure it looks clean, looks good. There's no debris in there. It looks like the diesel that's actually in the tractor right now. So everything looks clean there, you don't got to change it. But if it does look bad, I recommend changing the filter. And if it looks really cruddy, you might even want to dump the fluid that's in the, or the fuel that's in your tank. So there's the fuel filter, make sure you check that, and that's nice and clean. So we checked all our fluids. The next thing I'm going to look at is going to be, I'm thinking power source, so I'm thinking electronics, right? We need to check our battery, make sure everything's good and clean there. So on this guy though, the battery is kind of hard to actually see. You got to pull these dash cover off to get to it. It's not underneath the hood like your car would be. But they got quick connectors for you though, so you can pull it off pretty quick actually. Now without me pulling the other cover off, you see inside there, here's your battery connection, right? Here's one side. Same deal, you want to pull this off, clean around it, make sure everything's nice and clean in there. You want to have a great connection. A good connection will be better off for the whole system. As soon as you start having bad connections, it could throw off you know, anything that has electronic wise, it's not good to have a low battery source too. Okay, so there's that guy. And then air, that's gonna be our last deal. And this comes up to people that are doing field mowing and stuff. You might wonder why your tractor's overheating. It might not be because of low fluid, possibly could just because your radiator screen. This screen's gonna fill up with dirt and debris. And once it gets clogged, you're not getting airflow through the radiator, it's gonna overheat on you. So this is your first check. Obviously check it after your, or when you're getting ready to do your next job. But it slides right out. So you turn the tractor off, pull it out, you can dust it out and get it all nice and clean and put it back in. Same deal though, if this is packed up, you wanna check inside the radiator here as well. Inside the radiator as well, it could have dirt and debris and grass, correct? So we wanna make sure that's clean. Best way, get yourself a air compressor. They have, you know, long nozzles that you can put on the end of them, and you can actually blow those things out backwards to make sure that it's all nice and clean for you. Next air deal is going to be that actual air filter itself, and this guy's got 2 clips on it, and it pops right off, and there's your air filter. Slides right out. You want to make sure this guy's pretty much white. You want it nice and clean. If it's getting dusty, you can pull this thing out, and actually, I'll just show you. But you can put an air nozzle on this as well and blow it out and make sure it's nice and clean, or, you know, dust it out. But you don't want this to be dirty because this is your main airflow. So I would change this if it is. Otherwise, this guy looks clean, obviously, because it's brand new. So I'll put it back in there. So we went through the levels, we went through the battery, the air, the electronics, making sure everything's up to par. Last thing is going to be your grease points. There's a lot of metal on here because of, obviously, like for example your loader, it's got these pins on it. Down here you're gonna notice this pin that goes through. Well, that's metal on metal, so these little grease points or grease nipples on the side, you got to get a grease gun and you'll pump the grease in there, and you'll notice, actually if you come up the ram right here, you'll notice the goop coming out. So if I were to put the grease gun on here and pump it, you should see the goop come out on the inside here. Once you see it coming out, you know there's grease inside that joint, and the metal and metal friction won't wear it out, okay? So that's pretty much it. That's your basic stuff you want to do every 8 to 10 hours or every time you go back out to use your tractor. And this is for the LS MT1 series. Obviously for most tractors, it's pretty much the same idea, just in different spots. And some of the bigger tractors have more gadgets to it, but that's the basics of it. MT1.